What's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles welcoming you to another edition of Lyles Figure Files. All right, so it's December. It's the last few weeks of the month, which means the last few months of 2023. That also means everybody's putting together their top 10 list of favorite things. I want to attempt to do that with one of my favorite things, Hasbro's Marvel Legends line. As I started over and over, coming up with 10 names and going, now what about this figure? What about that one? I mean, it was pretty much impossible to limit it to 10 figures, at least for me, because I felt like despite all the griping, the wrong costumes, the complete and utter failure to complete teams, Hasbro's Marvel Legends team still cranked out a really solid year of figures with some great releases and stuff that I'm excited about. Going into 2024, some figures that they've shown, that Angel, that Sabretooth, that have me hyped up, that have me thinking next year is also going to be a similar challenge. How do I limit this to 10 figures? And after a while, I decided I'm not going to do that. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. I'm going to do my top 10-ish figures for 2023 for Marvel Legends. That's enough build up. Let's get started with the honorable mentions, because to cheat properly with a top 10 list, you have to have a pretty spacious, pretty large and comprehensive honorable mention section. I limited this to 5 figures. So if you want to be technical, this is going to be a top 15-ish list, because yes, there's even more on my top 10 beyond 10 figures. Let's start off with Egghead. This guy was a figure that I think that is not going to be somebody that people are going to have on their top 10 list a lot. But I think what they did with him was really great. We got a great head sculpt for Egghead. If we can zoom in a little bit better to show that off, it looks like the comic book. And really, sometimes that's all I need with these Marvel Legend figures. Give me the comic book look. This guy gets me one figure away, one moonstone away to be more precise, from having a complete Masters of the Evil set to take down or destroy the legacy of Hank Pym faster than Jim Shooter ever could. And I think this figure is really solid. He doesn't need to be spectacular, doesn't need to do a whole bunch of stuff. He's a scientist, an evil scientist. And I love the maniacal gleam on his head sculpt. I mean, he looks shifty and shady. He looks like he's up to no good. They went with the good, appropriate mold for him. He's got more articulation than Egghead ever needed. And I just think it's a really strong figure, definitely worthy of honorable mention status. And then another one that I thought was really good, just kind of mixing it up here on my desk, which is Chaos. Fortunately, you can't see it with that view. It's Mockingbird from the West Coast Avengers box set. And the only real reason that she's on the honorable mention list, because this figure was long overdue and I was really looking forward to her. And I still think she's a really strong figure. It's just that I wish they had painted this section of her arm flesh tone, so you get that sense of these flaring sleeves that are a little bit too short. That's another reason she didn't make the top 10-ish list. But it's the hair sculpt. It's that windswept deal where you can only make her look straight with any one. She's only going to work in action shots. In essence, she's not going to look. She's not going to look right when she's just sitting around for the meeting room with the rest of the West Coast Avengers team. I love that head sculpt. Hopefully you can see it pretty well, because it is a killer head sculpt. I mean, they just did an awesome job with her. Really strong figure. And of course, I wish she had the bicep articulation, which is like the bane of Hasbro's Marvel Legends team's existence, because they've got these really strong figures and they jump out on articulation that's really needed. So she's a really good figure, but she's missing a few things. Maybe an alternate head sculpt with her hair just flowing in a relaxed, natural state, double jointed elbows, and that bicep swivel. I mean, we're starting to see more female figures have those. It's just a standard. I mean, if she had met that standard, I think for sure she would have been in my top 10. So then another one from that West Coast Avengers box set is Dr. Hank Pym. He's got that same kind of jumpsuit mold, which makes him a little bit bigger, a little bit wider. Maybe I would have liked, especially compared to the Ant-Man figures, the Yellow Jacket figure that we have from way back in the dark days of the Hasbro's Marvel Legends brand. But I love the head sculpt. It's got explorer look for Hank. And I wish he kind of came with some satchel or something so we could show him reaching into his pouch to grab more devices to enlarge. But I think this is a really solid figure overall. No real problems. The articulation with the knee joints kind of look a little funky after you start moving them in certain joints. We've seen this with Star Wars figures, so that doesn't look great aesthetically. And same deal with the elbow joints because they have that little flare up deal too. But I don't really care too much, but it just looks a little bit off. But I really like Hank. And I was so happy to get this jumpsuit version. I wish they had flared his collar up, pop it out a little bit, Kanye style. But otherwise, really happy to have him in the collection. Baron, 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 Baron von Strucker is really good. I mean, he was so close to making him into my top 10 just overall. I don't think there's anything too spectacular with this figure where it's like he had to be in the top 10, but what they did with him is really good. Like he has an off shade green compared to the other Hydra soldiers in his command. He's got the Satan Claw, a little power effect to it. That's fine. He's got the tassels, the ropes on his outfit. They did the scarf piece right. The head sculpt also really well done. You can't see all the details. Don't know why. Still don't have that mastered. One day. So, but I wish they had the sculpted gloves, sculpted boots. I think they did a nice job. His Hydra belt is slightly askew, just like it is in the comic books. The logo from Hydra is great. And he's a really strong figure. I think they even did great paint work on the scars on his head. Really good choice. He's just not as spectacular as some of the other figures that are actually in the top 10 list. My final honorable mention is the Thor from the Thor Destroyer 2-pack. He's really good. The only reason he didn't make my particular cut is because this torso section here, this lower portion, the shading, the colors off because they try to do the thing where it's painting over black and it just didn't work as well as I would have liked there. So that's the only reason. But I love this head sculpt for Thor. This is awesome. They knocked this one out so strongly, so well. It looks great. He's got really good articulation and just a fun, powerful Thor figure to have in hand. So I really like that. And I think they did a good job with him. Now it's time. Let's go on to the top 10-ish figures. So my first choice was one that I had no intention of actually making into the top 10 until this month, where it was like, this guy, I didn't even like the character all that much, but it's such a well-done figure that he's got to make the cut for the top 10 list. And I'm talking about Ultimate Captain America. This figure is so incredibly well done. It would have been a disservice not to include him in the top 10. And there are other figures like Baron Helmet, or why do I keep saying Baron Helmet? Baron von Strucker, who I really wanted. That Toy Biz version needed an upgrade, and I thought Hasbro's version did justice to an upgrade for him. I thought that Thor with the beard is really well done. Mockingbird, Hank Pym in the red jumpsuit, definitely worthy of inclusion. But this guy is so really well done all around. All of the work here with the chainmail, whatever you want to call it. I think they call it the scallops, the Marvel Legends team, but the stars are sculpted everywhere, including the chest, the back here, and then the shoulder pieces. So really nice to see all that work done. The belt has a canteen, really great detail all around. And it's got the other elements to this outfit too. So this is like a smoother piece, really nicely done. They didn't shortcut, shortchange any portion of this outfit. So you can see over here, it's got that little underarm section. The gloves are very well detailed as well. Just a really, really good figure. And it's got an alternate head sculpt. So you can have this calm, neutral version. You can have the angrier one. He's got a nice big shield, as you can see as well. And that he's just a really strong figure and a nice solidly put together one too. He's not too small, not too thin. He's just right for what you would want for your Captain America figure. I thought they did an awesome job on a figure I didn't even care about. So for that reason alone, he had to make my top 10. Next up for number 9 is a set of figures that I've been kind of cheating with my figure list here. So I had to include some just because they were a 2-pack. Now that wasn't the case with Thor, but I definitely had to do it with this one because I was really excited and anticipating this one. And for the most part, it ended up down. I'm talking about the Doctor Doom from Secret Wars and Captain Marvel set. And I've needed a Monica Rambeau figure in my Avengers collection for the longest. I have her sitting up at the top of my 9 shelf or my 9-tier display setup, and she's in between Hercules and Wonder Man and Captain Marvel, Warbird. So she's chilling there in a really prime position because I really needed to have Monica on full display in my collection. And Doctor Doom is just a figure I was not anticipating liking as much as I do. But they put so much work into this armor. All of this lining is sculpted. They could have painted it like we've seen so often with Hasbro with the Marvel Legends line, but all that is sculpted. So that's really cool. They put the hood on, of course, because I didn't bring it. He's got the alternate swappable head where you can have the cloaked or hooded armored mask look. So you've got both versions of him when he's right about to fight the Beyonder and take his power. And then you got the separate removable mask piece that he can hold in his hands. So like that iconic shot in Secret Wars 11 into 12 where he takes the mask off and shows, I've healed my face. Now I'm going to heal the world. And it's a really nice looking figure. I thought they really knocked this out. I wasn't anticipating liking this one as much as I did, but they really delivered on them. And my bias, which I fully admit, is keeping Captain Marvel onto my list. I wish they could have done bicep articulation for double jointed elbows, although the range is really good. As you can see, the wing execution was just really hard to do. And I think that might have been some of the reason why it's taken so long for her to get into the line, just because her sleeves, much like Black Bolt and Banshee, are just a little bit harder to implement because of their design, because it should be like hanging on to her outfit, but it just doesn't work. It doesn't make sense for an action figure that's posable and has articulation. So this is the best compromise, and I think they did a really nice job. But her head sculpt is just fantastic. I love the work they did on it, and she stands really cool next to the other Avengers. And while she's lacking in that elbow and bicep articulation that I really wanted, I'm so happy to have this version of Captain Marvel on my shelf, joining my Avengers. She's one of the longest tenured Avengers during the 80s, and really cool to have her and getting one more member of Secret Wars done. So that was also a nice plus, nice bonus getting her into the line. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit with another 2-4. This is 8B and 8A because I could not really decide between the two of them. Talking about the X-Men 97 Magneto, another one I'll show you in a second. But this figure is great. He's like the best Magneto comic book version we've gotten so far. I mean, this figure was so well done. I mean, got really great articulation. The cape issue, which was plaguing every Marvel Legends Hasbro Magneto since they've started, not an issue. It can move, but it's not flying up. They've accommodated for him doing the arms raised, showing off my powers movement. So you're not going to have to worry about the cape getting in the way of all those dramatic poses, which automatically makes him the best one. I think his forearms might be a tad too long, but that is really my only complaint with this figure. I wish you could have had some different accessory pieces, but whatever. I love the work they did on the mask, helmet piece there, where you can sort of kind of see his eyes, but not really. And that's really harkening back to the old days of the comic book where it was just hidden and mysterious and he'd get lost in the shadows with it. But I thought the paint job they did on that is so well done, and just a really nice job with a figure that's essential who hadn't had a great figure. I mean, there were some that were pretty good, pretty solid, like that Family Matters 3-pack one. I wish they could have done a better job on the Age of Apocalypse. We've seen some more modern interpretations of Magneto that weren't bad, but this one is really great. I thought they completely knocked the figure out. And the other one, since that was 8B, we got to, of course, give it up to his fellow line mate, X-Men 97 Wolverine. And this is another one. It's so good. I think for the first time, they've actually gotten the colors of Wolverine down just perfect. It's not a dark metallic blue. It's not shiny blue. It's more of a turquoise blue, just like it was colored back in the day. And this line is based on the cartoon X-Men 97, of course. So I can't be too upset if it's not an ideal matchup to the comic book, but it works really well when it comes together like this. This Wolverine is pinless, and I don't really care about that most of the time. But I just thought it made this Wolverine look cleaner, neater. His claws are so much better, and the articulation, maybe in part because of those pinless joints, are smooth, where you can kind of do this cool pose where you can have the claws directly in his face. I love doing that and pulling that shot off. I just thought it was so much fun. And he's got great articulation. He scales properly with the rest of the X-Men, something that's very key to me with every Magneto figure they put out. But you can see the very precise scaling via my hand. Magneto's looking down at him just like I need him to in the collection. So a really great version of Wolverine. I thought they just delivered so hard with that figure. And, you know, the only reason he's not higher is simply because I already have some Wolverines that would have been just fine. I wouldn't have asked for another Tiger Stripe Wolverine, but this one is by far my favorite and definitely plays along just fine. It's not like, oh, this is the cartoony version of X-Men Wolverine in his Tiger Stripe outfit. There are some little elements like maybe the chin hair, which I'm sure you won't be able to see. Is slightly not as detailed as the comic book versions that we're used to, but really that's it. Such a great figure otherwise. My number 7 choice was a figure that I was like, oh shoot, this wave came out this year. I mean, it's been so long. We've seen so many things hit clearance that I'd almost forgotten this figure was part of the 2023 lineup, and Hasbro delivered so many figures, it's easy to forget which one came out this year, what was last year, and what was supposed to come out in 2024, but is dropping early. Looking at you, Void Wave, so you can get your Vision, your Black Panther. I believe Big Bad Toy Store is already starting to process those orders. So for some of you, you guys might be able to include some of those figures in your top 10 list. But for me, I had to include this version of Iron Man. There we go. The Hero's Return. This is one of my absolute favorite armors, and I thought they did such a great job implementing this in the Marvel Legends line. Again, no shortcuts with anything. They've got those slots, the slits just appropriately done here and on both sides. So you see the inner gauntlet, you can see the outer gauntlet. Look, there's a great shiny red to this, and they accommodated for these big bulky shoulder pads, so they're not hindered by the articulation. So you can still do all the stuff you would need your Iron Man to do. And the only thing that I really would have changed was make it so we get those white accent points. Now this is colored very appropriately to the Hero's Return Iron Man comic book, but in the Avengers, this had a little bit of a white yellow, so it kind of popped, made it look like there was some energy venting off of the armor. Really cool effect. I really would have liked to have seen that, as well as having Iron Man's eyes showing up in the eye slots. Not so much for the mouth, but I really loved how George Perez would do that, where if a character had a mask, you could see his eyes. And I would just love to see Hasbro start to do that more. Maybe it's just an alternate head sculpt where you can actually just see the eyes, or make it so you can see Tony's head or face underneath the armor. So anyway, I really love this figure. Really had me excited about seeing some more from that Busick Perez era. Heroes Return, Avengers, definitely one of my all-time favorite comic book runs. Number 6 continues the Avengers love fest that's been going on, and this is the Ant-Man, the Target exclusive. A really great figure. I mean, this is one I was like, come on, we need him, because that retro Ant-Man was terrible. This is so much better and delivers all around outstanding articulation. He can do all the stuff I need him to do. The colors are perfect. Definitely exactly what I wanted in terms of the shade of red, the blue. The helmet is awesome. It's got a nice pop of silver that just, and he's got his antennas, and they're soft, so you're not gonna have to worry about them breaking if he happens to fall off the shelf. I thought they did an excellent job with them, and I just really love how they turned out. And again, those colors just pop. He looks really great next to the other original Avengers, next to Iron Man, Thor, kind of sort of the Hulk. But we're going to be getting that Wasp later on next year, and she's going to be not part of the HasLab, but we're going to be getting her as a standalone. I can't wait to pair her with this outstanding version of Ant-Man. And I know Hasbro's like, well, Scott Lang. I'm like, hold on, this is Hank Pym in his original outfit, and I just love this look. So really, really happy that this figure turned out so well, and that they just killed it on this figure. I mean, I was just like, wow. I was hoping it would be this good, but it really was, and they just blew me away. It just completely went past all my expectations for that figure. And another one that I was not expecting to love as much as I did, but when it came out, I was like, wow, great job, guys. It is the Drax figure from the Moondragon and Drax 2-pack Guardians of the Galaxy set. I have Moondragon and she's sitting on the shelf. I could have brought her out and just cheated again and made her side by side with her daddy. But I really like this figure. I mean, all the detail here is just outstanding. I mean, they didn't cheat on anything. I feel like sometimes with Marvel Legends, it's like, oh man, if you had sculpted this element, this figure would be so much better. But everything with him is good. He's got a big, bulky feel to him. I mean, you just, let's see, compare him up to Magneto, how much bigger he is. He would have traditionally been a builder figure if we had like a dedicated comic book Guardians of the Galaxy wave. He's huge and massive, kind of in some cases bigger than a lot of these builder figures we've been getting. And he's just a really beefy figure, and they gave him swappable hands. So he's got grasping hands. He's got fists that you can throw in there as well. He's got a calm, serene head sculpt in addition, which you can see right here. And just a really good figure. And you can also go with the more brutish, angry one. I wouldn't mind if they would sort of revisit this mold and just kind of shrink it down to get a regular size Drax the Destroyer. But I really liked how this figure turned out. He was such a pleasant surprise. Moondragon, again, could have benefited from some bicep articulation, maybe just a few more sculpted elements, but I really like how she turned out as well. So let's throw her in. It's kind of like an asterisk along with her dad, because really strong figures. And the price of this also made it a real win for me. Typically, this figure alone would have been like $50, $55. We throw him up as a bonus deluxe figure. But the 2-pack with him and Moondragon was only $49.99. And just to get this figure, who would have really been a figure, I'm like, all right, well, it's $50. I don't love that price. But to get him along with their standard $25 figure, Moondragon, who was also really well done, had a great head sculpt, and I really liked how that figure turned out. Just to get two really quality figures like that, I was very impressed and really happy with how they were executed. And the fact that they weren't really ridiculously expensive made that set a big win for me. $49.99. So definitely a nice bonus. I need to throw a picture in just because Moondragon was great. And, I just really wish they could have sculpted in, her side parts here. Let me see if I can do myself a solid and then move this up so you can actually see. Great. So I wish they could have just added on a piece to maybe sculpt that part in so it wouldn't be so cheaply painted. And I really wish she had bicep articulation to make her, channeling her powers a little bit better. She is okay in terms of the articulation with the single jointed elbow because she's got enough range that it's not an issue, but man. And this head sculpt is just fantastic. It's really well done. Just one of the better ones that they've done. She's got the moon crescent earrings. So just a really great set. The two figures, of course, you would love for that pin to not be there, but otherwise, just no complaints. Just a very, very solid set of Marvel Legend figures. And that's kind of what I was hoping for with more of those deluxe ones and these box sets. The Beyond Earth's Mightiest figures, the Guardians of the Galaxy figures they released, comic book versions this year were home runs all the way. And here's another Avengers Beyond Earth's Mightiest figure that I absolutely had to must spotlight. It's the Destroyer. And I am just blown away with what they were able to do with this figure. So often we'll see these figures and it's like, all right, well, I can see where you're going to use these parts for another figure down the road. I don't see what they're going to reuse from the Destroyer. They did not say, well, let's figure out something else we can do with this and let's just kind of compromise it, piece it together the way we want. All of the spike details are on this figure, and it's not like an overlay piece. It is sculpted into this guy, and I just really love how that turned out. You can see the fist. I mean, everything that I wanted out of this guy. And it's just really cool that they did not say, well, this is not going to fit into our budget. And just we've got all the little slabs here, the slots going along the armor. There we go. His articulation isn't as great as some of the other Marvel Legend figures, of course, but he doesn't need to be. He's a big, bruising tank who Thor is just throwing Mjolnir lightning at him all the time. He's got better than I would have expected range out of this neck joint. I guess he's got a barbell piece there. But I mean, this figure is really well done, and he is absolutely massive. Thor is not your standard typical height Marvel Legends figure, but look at how they're looking compared to each other. I love how that turned out. And again, yeah, it could have gone with a darker wash. They could have done a little bit more to bring out some of this sculpt details, but what's here is impressive. And I'm just really amazed at all this work. I mean, you can see all of the spikes on the side here. It's just a really, really well done figure. Kind of what you would love to see Hasbro doing every time they have a figure to just put out there, where it's like there is no dispute, there's no argument. It's Adam Cole, baby. This undisputed, a really great figure, and I'm glad they put all the work into making that figure look as good as it did. Now it's time, where we on the list here for number 3. That's right. There we are. Losing track here. So number 3 on this list is the big guy himself, Blob. Now, as great a value as I told you about Drax and Moondragon, this guy is not. He's 55, 52 bucks all on his own. But when you knock out a figure this well, I tend not to complain too much about the price. And he is every bit as big and massive as I would want for Blob, but he's got surprisingly good articulation. He's got a good tilt going, great center of balance, so you can have those, you can't stop the Blob. And I wish it had a little bit better range, but I mean, how much more do I really need out of the Blob? And they sculpted this part on. We didn't even need that. I think it's fine without it, but we got that. The detail on the belt, I'm not sure you'll be able to pick up, but it's actually done like a spandexy material, which is really nice attention to detail. And he's got 2 head sculpts. I wish the hair matched up a little bit better, but this is a really great figure. You can put him with your Freedom Force / Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. I mean, I got to go with the full title of these guys. And he's their nice heavy hitter, a pretty essential X-Men villain to actually add into the shelf. Plus, he gets rid of that grotesque, all the cellulite you could possibly ask for, original Build-A-Figure that Hasbro did back when they were first starting with the line. Something else I know you're not going to really be able to see is the freckling they included on the skin, which is really nice and good extra face and paint detail that, again, not something that I would have been like, oh man, you got to include this. I think you can see it on the leg a little bit better. But I mean, it's just really great stuff and just additional things I kind of associate a lot more with the Classified series line, but they put together for Blob. And I think they did a great job with him. He's got, of course, swappable fists. I always try to mash it up and have like one grasping hand and one fist when I have those options. So it's nice that they threw that in there. Not really other things that I would have wanted, expected them to throw into a Blob figure. Yes, I wish his price was cheaper, but just a really good figure. And as we're getting more, I guess we're almost close to getting the complete Freedom Force. Again, complete teams, Marvel, Hasbro Legends, Marvel Legends team. We're almost there, and just 4 more characters so I can have a complete Freedom Force. And just a really strong work on him, and a really exceptional addition, and clearly somebody I needed to throw into my top 10 list for 2023. And another one that was in need of an upgrade, a better version, the definitive one, if you would. I have to go with one of my favorite Avengers. It's Hawkeye, and he even comes with the Sky Cycle and a really great accessory for him. And if you were fortunate, like a lot of us were, this figure was on clearance at Target for 25 bucks, and you just can't beat getting a figure this great with an accessory that makes a lot of sense for him. And I love everything with this guy. He's got finally the appropriate Hawkeye colors, a lot brighter purple, a lot more vibrant blue. I know some people don't like the long cloth because it's actually cloth and not plastic or soft vinyl, But I love that it actually works where he can sit in on his sky cycle with no problem. You're not gonna have to worry about, oh no, he can't do all this stuff. He's got a bow and arrow, and got a separate arrow piece, which is nice. And he's just a really well done classic version of Hawkeye. Exactly what I would want for this guy. And I think they just knocked him out. So really sensational work. One of my favorite figures. So happy with how he turned out. And yeah, I mean, this is what I was hoping for with this Avengers Beyond Earth's Mightiest Wave when they started announcing them. Like, oh man, this is a really good figure. So yeah, I just really like how he turned out. Better head sculpt, not quite the cocky Hawkeye that I want to see from him, but really, really close. And now it's time for the number one slot. Let's get into it. I'll show you who I selected. All right. Well, I decided maybe I shouldn't go to my number one figure. I should save that for last. And why not go to my favorite Build-A figure for 2023? And there weren't a lot of options for me. I had no interest in building Cosmo, even at Target clearance prices for those Guardians of the Galaxy MCU figures. I didn't really care about trying to track down the mindless one. I felt like, guys, I just buy them in bulk. Maybe at Ollie's, maybe at Ross later on when you're selling them separately, not as part of a Build-A-Figure wave. And so there weren't a lot of options in that case. And then there were some figures, some choices that had some issues. So for me, I just kept it simple. I went with the Build-A-Figure Puff Adder. And this guy I thought was a really simple figure. I mean, clearly there's not a lot to do with him. There's not a lot of sculpting, but this head sculpt is fantastic. I mean, we got this full snake motif working, and the the face, I guess, not even full head sculpt underneath is just really awesome. I mean, it looks really good, really intense. He's ready to do his thing. And, it had been a while since we got another Serpent Society member. I'm sure Captain America coming and Cap and all of his crew fighting them. We'll see a couple more. But it's nice to get some more members to a team added to a lineup, especially when it had been a while since we'd seen some more. And this is really great use of that Caliban buck. That's awesome for your bigger, brutish characters. Maybe they could use this for Ox for the Spider-Man, characters. Him and Fancy Dan and Montana. I think that'd be a cool use for it too. But I mean, this is nice and beefy. The character you can throw up against other characters, and you can see how he looks against Blob and how they look against the Destroyer. So not too bad. And he's really just big. And sometimes you just need that for your bad guys to fight your heroes. So I really, he's a simple figure, but I love how he turned out. And it's always nice to add some more characters to a team, especially a villain team that fights the Avengers, and they need all the help they can absolutely get. So for my number one choice, and I'm saying that kind of very much tongue in cheek because there's two, and that really just depends on when you got these figures. For me, I got them both this year, so they count. My first choice has to be number 1B, if you will, is Black Widow. This figure is just amazing on all the levels you could ask for. This is a figure that originally was $27.99, and when I saw all the accessories she came with, the 3 portraits, and they actually covered different time periods for the character, that was great. And I said, this is exactly what I want out of a deluxe figure, out of a figure you're going to charge $27.99, a premium price, if you will. Give me all the goods. Give me the vapor trails from the smoke. Give me multiple handguns, pistols, wasp sting effects, the vapor trail on them, the blast effects. Give me more. And that's basically what we got with this figure. I mean, she's awesome. So many great portraits. And also, she benefits me because I get to finally free my cover girl from JoJo Classified series with a head that actually makes more sense befitting a model who joins the G.I. Joe team. So just a really great work. You can see on the back with this longer hair piece, she's got a wash in her hair. Hopefully you can see that. And a great expression. There's not a bad one in the bunch. So I really love that you can't go wrong with either of these 3 head sculpts. It's really just your preference. But maybe the best part was, I missed out. And I was like, oh, shoot, I missed out on what, a lot of you all were saying even back in the summer, this is a figure of the year candidate, and she's got awesome, great articulation. You all did not lie. She can hit so many poses because she's got the absolute best articulation from our basic female figure. She's great and can hit so many poses. And just like this is what should be the standard from female figures from this brand going forward. Like we can't go back to the single jointed elbows, no bicep articulation. Let me just throw that off and show you because yes, she has all the stuff I want. Just a really great figure and certainly a figure worthy of that Beyond Earth's Mightiest tag and being an exclusive to Target and being $27.99. Then when I thought all hope was lost, she popped back up on the shelves and was like, awesome, I finally get this great figure. And then it rang up on clearance price. It's $13. So a great major win because I would have paid that $27 for, taking advantage of some circle points, rewards from Target, but getting that awesome figure, my 1B for 2023 makes her a great winner. And of course, you all know at this point who, if she's not just an undeniable, undisputed number one, who the other one is, the 1A in this list. And that, of course, is Spiral. And I know some people are going, how are y'all forgetting about Spiral when Black Widow came out? This is ridiculous. Y'all are forgetting this great figure. And I really have to agree on so many fronts because this is just an awesomely engineered figure. I mean, goodness gracious. You see how they did the arms? I mean, this is so much better than the Spider-Man figure with the multiple arms. She's got so much stuff. I mean, granted, we don't have all the difference, the variations with the swords, which would have been really great to see, but oh man, so cool. And I like the original Hasbro Spiral. I thought she was pretty good. I didn't really have any issues with her. I wasn't like, oh man, Spiral desperately needs a new figure. But they just really outdid themselves with this figure. She's awesome. She has so much articulation with these different hands. Her arms all have double jointed elbows, bicep articulation. So she has the absolute premium deal in terms of what we're getting, what we expect now at this point with these figures. And she's so much fun to just kind of pose around and fiddle with how you want to have her arms going, where you want to position her. She's got great torso articulation, so she can hit so much, so incredibly posable too, and pinless joints. So she is the best of everything from Marvel Legends. And the fact that this figure, with all this really creative engineering, was $24.99. And maybe you got her lucky, you can get it for $19. But I mean, this is what Hasbro should be doing. And granted, not every figure has 6 arms, but if she can get this much attention and love in a regular price figure, then we should get this with more figures going forward in 2024. Just a really great figure. So Black Widow, Spiral, my 2 favorite figures for 2023 for Marvel Legends, and really great work all around. Hawkeye isn't too far off. He's like 1C, but I needed to make him number 2. But a really great rendition of one of my favorite Avengers. Ant-Man, also really well done. Of course, no particular order because they're just scattered all over the desk. Drax the Destroyer, Blob, really solid additions to the line. The Heroes Return, Iron Man armor, awesome figure. The X-Men 97 figures, Magneto, Wolverine, that's really done. Really has me excited about getting this wave 2 of that line as well. Ignore the humble rumble of all these figures falling over each other on the desk. Captain Marvel, Doctor Doom. Then we got my favorite Build-A-Figure, Puff Adder. The Destroyer, just a massive beast of a figure. Ultimate Captain America. So there it is. There are my top 10-ish figures for 2023. Let me know how bad I did with mine or what you all thought about my choices. And of course, I want to hear from y'all. What are your top 10 favorite Marvel Legends of the year? And I'm going to do some more Star Wars. I'm going to do G.I. Joe Classified Series for sure. But if there's another top 10 you want to see me do, I know I read one suggestion for my top 10 MCU figures. That might be kind of hard because I kind of really dialed down on my MCU figures, but I'll just go with what look cool. But anyway, thank you as always so much for watching. I appreciate you all watching, commenting, liking the videos. It means a lot. And I'll get to work on my next few videos. Let me know your top 10 favorite Marvel Legends of 2023. Thank you so much for watching. This episode of Lost Figure Files has been filed.